Yes, okay. All right, so we're live. And then I'll hopefully pause. But just a little bell work here, coinciding with an example that we were showing up there during the attendance. So going through, and then you just go ahead and check yourself before you wreck yourself. And then no chat answers yet. What multiplies, and this is what works back then. Once I take that 5 out, what I taught you on Thursday was when you have a trinomial in this format, MA works. When multiplies the 10 and adds the -7, don't answer. I got it. And then good FOILers are, answer that one. Oh, we already had that. Sorry, there's my thing again. I've already forgot. We already had the good FOILers, good factors. X squared, 5x negative. 5x and negative 2x is -7x. -5 times -2 is 10. So, you got to be doing that homework so you understand, that FOIL back last week so then we can make that comment. If you can't FOIL, then you can't factor. I mean, it's very simple, for that little idea there. Then this one, it's a 6x that gets pulled out. This is a 5x. Left over, that's an x squared. And then 6 times 4. Oh, what the heck? What's the final answers? 6x times, go ahead and write this in the chat, and you'll be seconds after Ryan with the good FOILers, good factors. Come on, let's see if we learned, anything. Then you'll be done for the day. Well, I'm going to have some times where I might go back to it, but I really want to I got 14 people in the books last hour. I want to get more. Okay, fine. You didn't write the 6x first, John or Jack. All right, so
My
what do you
bad.
think?
That's my bad.
Yeah, so what do we do? What's the judgment, guy? Let's vote. Is it Patrick or John that won? I think we're gonna have to go with Patrick. John, you'll get or Jack. Sorry, but you didn't write the 6x first, and that's a common error. So we're not picking on you. But when you write a final answer, you have to have all factors in there. Now I know I said fill in the blanks, but we're gonna use that as a lesson for everyone there. You want to get that 6x in the final answer as well. It's often not written when they go to the answer blank. So, all right, no big deal. You'll get in there later. Okay, then this one. I'm just going to teach this, and then you see if you got the right answer. According to second hour, no one had ever seen this before, but there's a big problem. There's a big problem with me doing this lesson next that we're going to do and not talking about factoring by grouping. So and I do have it set for two notes Thursday that we're going to talk about grouping again. So it's a little mistimed. So I do have to kind of cover it. First of all, factoring by grouping requires that you have 4 terms. So when you get to the end of this chapter, which is going to be next week, I think we're shooting for a test. So you got a lot of time. We're talking about a week from this Friday. And you got 2 days off in there that I know you're just going to do math during those days off, right? Anyway, so it's just something that we're going to have to memorize. When I have 4 terms, I'm going to try the factoring by grouping method. And I put a real weird one here. All right, it doesn't even look like anything you've seen before, but I see 4 terms. So here's what you do. Get ready for the chat, by the way. 4 terms, and you group the first 2, and then notice what I did, and I can't zoom in on this any further. This is a must, especially for grouping the second terms. You must make that plus a negative before you group the second terms, and always, who's got their microphone on? Oh, Alessandra, turn off your mic. I think it accidentally popped on. Alessandra, turn off your mic. There you go. All right. Then notice that plus sign is outside of that grouped set of parentheses. Okay, here we go. What's the greatest common factor of the first 2 terms? This is how factoring by grouping works. What is the GCF of the first 2 terms? Oh, Emily Ann, nice. Okay, good. Oh, that computer is firing now, and she got 3rd in the answering questions. And so far, you're the only one that has it right as well, which is okay. This is why we do this, and we have the courage to go ahead and try those answers. 3 times 2 is 6, and then this is x squared. And they both have a y in common. Now, I did this on purpose as well. I had some mistakes with stuff. That's a 1. That needs to be a 1 in there because 3y times -1 now is -3y, not nothing. Some people are putting nothing there when I'm looking at some things. All right, and then how about the second term? Take out a negative as well, though, and I'll tell you why. Oh no, oh no, oh no, they didn't do it. They didn't do it. Let's see who can recover real quick. Boom! Kayla Shea is the first one that I see on the chat that has the negative 2x. Nice. That's a trick. Okay, you guys were like mad probably that put 2x. The reason you want to pull out negative 2x is what happens next, and it's imperative that this happens for grouping to work. I take out a negative 2x. I made a mistake there. Trying to do too many things at once. Looking at the kids' names on the chat and also trying to teach here. Notice the parentheses that I have here, 2x divided by negative 2x is negative 1, are identical. And this is a key. This is a key. And actually, I'm going to go to the book real quick. 2x squared minus 1. You pull that out, and then what you're left with is with 3y minus 2x. This is a Gcf binomial, which coincides with number 23. 23 in the homework for 2-4, which you got to do your homework in order to have like these ideas down. And I'm going to go ahead and go to the end of my notes and snap that in there. Did I? Oh, I did. I did. Nice. Okay, let me erase that and then show you. And then go back to that one up there. So yeah, hopping around here for questions. This is like coincides with this and understanding that the GCF of these 3 terms. What? Yeah, you could treat this as a term. That's a term, and that's a term. 3 terms. The greatest common factor is actually this huge binomial that I can pull that out like a GCF. So actually what this would look like is that x plus 5 pulled out, and then you're left with that x minus 3x plus 4. Didn't ask you to do that, it just asked what was the GCF, but that's how that would work. That's how that would factor, okay? So I was going to ask some questions from the homework, but I really wanted to identify that one as a good one. Okay, so tough. Again, for me to talk about a trick for factoring today, GCF is involved in it, so it must be discussed. All right? All right, I'm going to press pause on the video. All right, just kind of talking about some homework questions here, and we went over some quiz ideas, like some common mistakes kind of thing. And I like this last one from 2.5, or one of the last ones, because it really hammers down the point. Remember, this is 2.5. We're going to be moving on to 2.6. 2.5, 1x squared, 1x squared, 1x squared, 1x squared. We can then just do this MA factoring all the way through what multiplies to the last number and adds to the middle, as long as the first term is 1. So lock that in. But I like it that 30 is the M number, or negative 30, and look at all these different possible combinations of getting the middle term depending on what the signs are. First of all, positive middle term and a positive last term. You have to have a positive and a positive. So that's why I like that one. When you have a positive last term but a negative last term and a positive in the middle, the positive must be larger. But then when the negative and negative, the negative must be larger. So I like those two, 2 and 4, the comparison between those two. That's a common error with students not doing that correctly. Then here's yet another different combination where you get negative 30 and a negative 7. Negative 10 times 3, negative 10 plus 3. And the reason is good foilers. Anyone? Put that on the chat. Oh, we already did that. Oh my gosh, I'm like, my old age is kicking in. I can't remember one hour to the next. And I saw someone just throw up their arms in frustration. I apologize for annoying you. All right. X times x is x squared. 3x and negative 10x is negative 7x and a negative 30. That was hilarious. Annoying the students, I guess. All right. Now, this is where this is going to get rough. I really hope you pay attention to this and understand. If you want to write this down, all I'm doing is giving the book props. I'm giving the book props that they explain this, and you can look at it in the interactive examples, I guess, and they really break this down. And I think this is example 2. Example 1 was what we did for bell work. They just wanted to remind you, take out a GCF, and then you could factor like 2, 5. But then this one, okay, so they're not factoring, they're describing foiling. So this is, I believe, 2, 3. So this would be a 2, 3 question. And this hammers down the whole idea of foiling is the opposite of factoring, and factoring is the opposite of foiling. So in 2, 3, you were given this question: first, outer, inner, last. And then you added like terms, and this was the answer. Now, in 2, 6, this is the question. And the directions are not multiply, they're factor. And of course, you already know that the answer is 3x plus 4, 2x plus 1. You only know that because you see the question over here. So I just want you to get that in your head that this is what's going on with this, and we are going to have to approach this a little bit differently. And then I'm going to go ahead and finish that one after I do what I'll call first example. But they go through a whole description right here. The product of 6x squared plus 11 plus 4, notice there's an AC component. See what 6 times 4 is, and that's actually 24. And then see what the B value is at the end, and that's 11. And what you're going to find out is we're going to do a trick for this, and this is our new MA analysis. And I'm going to go ahead and break that one down later and just tell you what that process is. So through the combination of numbers and factors, this M equals A times C and A equals B is a trick that we can use to reverse and factor this. So reverse the multiplying process is the best way I can express this. So don't write anything down yet. I'm going to go ahead and explain that. But I will say this. Those that are very numerate, those that are very good with numbers, will not need a trick most of the time, and they will be able to imagine through trial and error what the factorization of that polynomial is. So we're going to shoot for that. And I'm going to show the first example, and the very next, the next chats that I want to see up there is, what is the polynomial I'm going to show you in factored form just by guess and check. And then I'll show you the trick. And this is a good one. Yeah, I like this one better. Go. So what I'm saying is, one way to factor, I'll just call it method 1, is trial and error. Good FOILers are, we already said, good factors. Method 1 is just do it. Just write it in factored form. And in honors, many of you will be able to do this. So I'm saying this ends up being a binomial times a binomial, no trick. Don't worry about that MA thing. Don't be taking 2 times negative 21 yet. Just what are the factored answers? What binomial times what binomial equals 2x squared plus x minus 21? We'll wait. I'll shut the video down for a sec. Nice. So we had Matt, I didn't say his last name, get this correct, and it was a tough question. It took some time. So I think I was saying out loud that it's got to be 2x times 1x to get 2x squared, and then some combination that equals negative 21 when you multiply, but you got to get the correct middle term. So Matt, you've already done, you're done factoring. You were good thinking about the numbers and able to get the correct combination. You're a good FOILer, which means you're a good factorer, right? Of course. Okay, now here's the trick, method 2, and do understand that this is a trick. A couple other people had some good guesses, but you just didn't accomplish the middle term when you did the O and I of FOIL. So good call. So it's the MA method. But it's different, and understand why this question is different. It's different because this is not 1x squared. It changes what m is. So I kind of leaked that out in the notes without anything behind it. This is just something you're going to have to memorize for trinomials that are in the form ax squared plus some number times x plus a number. The a messes things up. The a is 2 times negative 21. Now just bear in mind, this is a trick. And then the middle term is still the a number. Okay, so just bear with me and answer this question on the chat. What two numbers multiply to negative 42 and add to 1? Then I'm just going to tell you that this is going to work and give me the exact same answer that we already have. But some people struggled on finding what that answer was. Oh, you're not supposed to answer, Matt. You're already in the books. But he is correct. No problem. All right. And I know you want to answer some more. I just like to get more people involved. Yes, the numbers are 7 and negative 6. Now bear with me. Again, this is a trick that allows you to factor this, and you'll see where it comes from when I go back to the original example. And I'm going to do this like this, where I'm going to write the minus second just to prove a point. Notice what I've done. I did this magical MA, which you're still a little cloudy why I did that. Why did I take 2 times negative 21? Really, the answer is because it works, because of factoring being the opposite of foiling. That's really the best way I can explain it. And then what I did is I broke this down, but this is still equal to the original situation. I just took these magic numbers and split up the middle term, which still adds up to be positive 1x. And then this is why I had to cover grouping. Now you're going to group. Before you group, this must be plus a negative. Okay, in order, I need both answers. What's the GCF of the first set of parentheses? And there's only one correct answer. What's the GFC for the second set of parentheses? You must take out a negative. Did I hear something? GCF of the first set of the parentheses, GCF of the second set of parentheses. Come on, let's get in there, clock in there. My third hour is going slow here. Nice, I got it. I think that was Adrian. We're saying first names only. So you take out an x out of the first one, and it has to be, in this case, a negative in the second one, and it is a negative 3. And then when I take out a negative 3, this is y. This becomes a positive 2x, and then this negative 21 divided by negative 3 is a positive 7, and this is imperative in this type of factoring, or I'm sorry, imperative in grouping at the end, that these two sets of parentheses are exactly the same. So those that don't make this plus a negative and then leave that plus on the outside, you end up making mistakes on this factoring by grouping. So I have to hammer that down again. Any minus signs, especially in that position, must be made a plus a negative before you continue. And then just like I told you in number 23 in section 2.4's homework, binomials can be greatest common factors. And I'll make that plus negative 3 back to a minus. And then that's why we see that there. And then yes, this is exactly the same answer as this because it's supposed to be. I just did it a different way. I used what I call a trick. And this takes a lot longer, I think. But it's up to you where you're at comfortable-wise. Now, I wanted to go ahead and factor this. Okay, so I know what the answer is supposed to be. Let me fill in the middle with the trick. And the trick is m equals 6 times 4. And again, this is just to break down this like unfoil. And this is one of the steps of you would see if you were foiling this. And you're going to see it in this question. A equals 11. Real quick, on the chat. Oh, okay, Ethan, we'll get to your question after I do this. Let's see, am I taping? Right. Let me finish this off here, though. What multiplies to 24 and adds to 11? Someone throw those numbers down. Then I'll press pause and answer your question. Good, I got someone that showed that. But look, and again, this just proves the point. Look at when we foiled, we got this answer. Then look at when we go through this process of factoring, we're going this way. And look at where we're at. This is why I like this, like as a breakdown. So we're going in this backwards motion so that we get to here as an answer. So that's how that trick method works. It actually is reversing FOIL in the correct process. So that's why I like it. And then what you didn't see in this one, but if I continued the book, they did show this. You take out a 2, I had to think there for a second, 2x, and you're left with 3x plus 4. And then I'd have to take out a 1. I showed that in the bell work as well, that you should be taking out 1s so that you know there is something left over when you factor this out. And then there's the binomial GCF, and then there's what's left over when you pull that binomial GCF out. So we knew that was supposed to be the answer. I was just showing the trick with that. But really what I was doing is showing the point of the trick. Here we are foiling. When we factor, we're trying to reverse that process with the trick. All right, and hopefully we understand that. So I did show that in this one. Let's throw out in the chat. This one's tougher. Hey, who can just do the factoring? Who could just think, what should the 2 sets of parentheses be? By the way, this whole time we should be looking for a GCF. 17 is prime though, and 3 is prime, so there is no GCF. I didn't do that with the other hour, and I made a mistake again on missing a GCF in a question. I'm waiting on the chat if someone can do this. I wanted to give it some time. Don't do the method, do the unfoil. And I guarantee those that are good with factoring or good with numbers will be able to figure out what that combination is. So we're waiting on the chat. Then I'm going to start giving hints like, I'd start with the easier part. I know this has to be an end with a plus 3 plus 1 or a plus 1 plus 3 because 3 times 1 equals 3. And my middle term is positive. So both of those numbers have to be positive. So I at least have half of my answer of each binomial. Then what would have to go here? Well, whatever equals 10x squared when multiplied. So I'd possibly have 10x and 1x switched, one or the other, or 2x and 5x, and which one belongs where. And when you do that thought process, it comes into play, and I'll end up getting some people that get the answer. All right, we got Jack. He nailed it there. I think that's a tougher of the questions, too. Yeah, so 2x, 5x, and then where do I put it? Well, if I put it here, then, good foilers, 2x and 15x does equal 17x. Of course, 2x times 5x is 10x squared. So you do that, then you check your answer, then you move on, and you know your answer is correct. Let's do method 2 now. And for those that didn't answer, you know, maybe in the time that we had allowed there, method 2 will work. And I should say something more about it. Here's when we know method 2 will work. First of all, m equals. Remember the difference today. This is not 1. This creates a problem. So the first problem is, for the trick, this is m, 10 times 3. And a is 17. Real quick on the chat, what are the two numbers? Multiply to 30, add to negative, or add to 17 or so. So make sure we try to chime in there even if we're a little bit late. Yes, so Laura got 15 and 2 as the numbers. I should get rid of that. 15 and 2. Now, what do you do about this? This is where it gets ridiculous. When we start doing a trick, and remember, I'm calling this a trick, but it's just reversing FOIL and taking steps to do it. What I will get people do is write this. They'll get the magic numbers, then they'll write, oh, okay, then this is the factored form of this, and this is the answer that will get absolutely no credit. Because the whole annoying saying, good FOILers are good factors, you have zero connection with what you are doing. None whatsoever. Because x times x does not equal 10x squared. And of course, 15 times 2 does not equal 3. So this is where we get a problem with using tricks in a way. Just make sure you go all the way through and understand that what I need to do is break up the middle term with those magic numbers that work. Now, I forgot to say this. You will know that this is factorable if the magic numbers exist. Not every trinomial has to be factorable. If you do a correct MA and cannot come up with a combination of numbers that match these, then the trinomial is unfactorable, as long as your math is sound. So do be aware of that. So that's a good thing about this trick. It tells you it's factorable, and then when you proceed, you will have a success, as long as your mathematics are sound. Okay, in order on the chat, what's the GCF of the first set of parentheses? And I need a number that is the GCF of the second factors, or parentheses, I mean. So yes, spent some time on the chat there just to make sure we're all good. 5x is the first GCF, and then that's a 3, so undistributing that. And yes, you want to pull out a 1 and see it so you don't make a mistake. The GCF is actually 1. Usually people don't write it or, consider it. But if you don't write it, then you're going to make a mistake possibly in writing your final answer. And then notice this grouping factoring only works if those two parentheses are the same. Therefore, they can be pulled out as a GCF binomial, just like number 23 in 2-4's homework. So that's how that 2x plus 3 ends up out there, and then you get 5x plus 1. Again, notice it is the same answer as that. It's because it should be. You're unfoiling. The answer should foil to be the question. This is just a reversal of the FOIL process. If you were to FOIL this, this is kind of how would it look like, not with that necessarily being in that step. It could be done like that, but don't worry about that. I'm blabbering. Okay. Oh no. Okay, gotta press pause. I'm on the chat right now asking, what is this method 1? And I think some people should be able to do this pretty quick, just unfoiling without using the trick method. Then Adrian, I'll cover how do I know what MA is. That's using a trick to do this, but waiting for someone to get this answer. Okay, so we did unfoil. I'm sorry, I had the movie off, and somebody unfoiled correctly. Hopefully they didn't use the trick. Now I have a new question waiting for someone. Oh, Alessandro, you're already marked off. Bummer, but you're set of parentheses. So sorry if I had the movie off as I'm waiting for people to answer that in the chat. What's the GCF of the first parentheses? GCF of the second. But talking for the movie purposes here, as I wait for people in the chat to fire off on that. Now we're doing the trick. M, A, middle term. Here's the magic numbers. You split the middle term into those magic numbers and group. Don't have anyone yet. What is the GCF of the first set of parentheses, comma, what's the GCF of the second set of parentheses? Okay, and I know we have 6 minutes left, but this is a big one, guys. If you're not focused on this and watching what we're doing here, it could be a problem, but hopefully you are and give it your best. This is a tougher scenario. Hopefully it's like sinking in, and hopefully you're getting how I'm doing this 2 different ways. One way, just unfoil. If you can't unfoil, then go ahead and go to the trick. The trick should always work. And the trick always works if you can find the magic numbers that match the product and sum. So, oh, good. This is the first time this happened. Yes, this is the same as that. You can write one set of parentheses first and the other set of parentheses second. It doesn't matter. Those are equivalent and it's all good. Okay, I'm going to stop for a second before we do the last throw out their answers. Okay, so I threw out there method 1. Who can factor this right off the bat and get the correct factorization purposes? And then for third hour, if you just wanted to see some more, you can watch the end of this YouTube video after I compose it. All right, before I do this, does anyone have any questions? And then I'll answer those. All right, so my third hour left. I did want to cover these last ones. Second hour, how embarrassing. I started doing an MA right away. Oh, and then I got this huge number. I think it was negative 294, negative 35. And then I'm like, oh my goodness, I just made the big mistake, the huge mistake that you should never make, and I did it. You should always look for a GCF first, because then what it also does is 7 times 5, 7 times 2, then makes this next factoring a lot easier as well. The MA would have worked. I think it is negative 294. And negative 35 is A. And you would have found numbers that work, but then you would have had a binomial left over that still has 7 as a GCF. So that's why we want to get it out first, so we know that, but also it makes your factoring much easier than these crazy numbers for the trick. And then I'm going to do this without the trick and just go through my process of thinking and how you should do it. And then I'll change colors and do the trick. See, we know it's got to be for 3x squared, it's got to be 3x and 1x. So I start right away with that. It cannot be anything else, right? 3x times 1x is 3x squared. And this has to be 2 and 1, and one of them have to be negative. Now I start going through the process. How do I get a negative 5 in the middle term? So now I start thinking about this. I'm putting this in my mind as placeholders. Where would the 2 have to go and where would the 1 have to go? Who would have to have the negative to get a negative 5? And the answer is there should be the negative 2 and this should be the positive 1. Because then I see that it's negative 6x plus 1x, which is negative 5x. And of course I know negative 2 times 1 is still negative 2. So it makes me sad, students, that when they factor, they don't constantly think about FOIL. Because then they write answers that have no chance of being correct. Now it's the trick. Again, you still have 7 out. And then before I continue for the trick, m is 3 times negative 2, which is negative 6. A equals negative 5. This is a trick done way different than just unfoiling. And then what are those numbers? Well, they are 3x squared. And then what multiplies to be negative 6 and then adds to be negative 5. Negative 6 and 1. This time I'll write the negative first, which does make my life easier. Maybe I'll change colors because I have to do multiple parentheses here. I don't know if you'll really see the blue different than the green, but now I group those and factor yet another GCF out of those individual groupings. And really, it probably could be confusing that that 7 keeps getting brought down, but it does have to be in the final answer. We had that in second hour. Someone wrote an answer without writing the GCF first in the bell work. And do take out a 1 so you see it out of this one. And then you could see when you take out that x minus 2 GCF, I guess I'll leave those brackets. You're left with a 3x plus 1. Then I don't really need those brackets anymore, but I'll leave them there. And that is the same as that, so we're good. And this one, I swear everyone should be doing this without the trick. Because again, we have a reverse of FOIL, and I know it's got to be 3x and 1x to be 3x squared. So these are real small numbers. Real small numbers, everyone should be doing unfoil right off the bat. And then we must understand to get a y squared and an xy middle term, these have to have y's on them. All right, and then we got to come up with the combination. How do we get positive 1 in the middle term? So I'm going to get that off there, and I'm going to go, all right, so what has to go there and what has to go there so I get a positive 1, knowing that it has to be 2 and 1 with one of them being negative. And I already got it. It's minus 2 plus 1, but maybe I'm wrong. Hold on. You know, I threw that in there. Maybe I'm incorrect. Let me double check. 3x times 1y is 3xy. And a negative 2y times 1x is negative 2xy. Oh, yeah. When I add those together, I do get a positive. Some people were putting switches. Just check real quick. You know, then you'll see that this would happen and say, oh, darn it. I just have to change the signs. You know, so some people wrote those in the chat when we were answering questions. And when you were answering, and those little mistakes came out. Just catch them. Catch them real quick and then go from there. I'm not even doing the MA method on that. I'm telling you that you should do the unfoil as much as possible when numbers are small.